Good afternoon, simulation farmers. This is your host, Tiara. You can call me Charm, you can call me Rain. I respond to all three. Welcome back to another episode of To Be Real. Today we are talking about part 2 of our series that has to do with activating your power, understanding your power, activating your ability to overcome any situation, and then moving on into what it looks like when you have mastered that. We're going from the cognitive phase to the associative phase and then to the autonomous phase. Our last episode was kind of explaining the concept of the fact that every subject is made up of two subjects. What it is that you desire and what it is that you don't desire. And so we made the differentiation in the last episode about what those two things are so that you can tune your awareness more intentionally in the direction of what you actually want to create. And so that's the cognitive side of it, to really understand this concept. The next step is the associative. It's the concepts, now you're trying to put it into practice. And so this episode is going to be all about trust. If you don't get anything out of this episode and you just want to skip it and, skip however long this episode is going to be, let me tell you this. Trust is an action verb, and it is the tuning fork that allows you to align with the reality of your dreams. It is what anchors you into that reality and reignites your power, no matter how powerless you are feeling. That being said, let's get right into the episode. Actually wrote a book last year. I did not publish it. My life kind of fell apart as I was working on it. And then I was like, well, let me just kind of try and put out the fucking dumpster fire that is my life. And I put it aside. But it's something that I was very passionate about as I was writing it. And it felt very inspired. And I got a lot of visuals as I wrote this book. And the concept of trust came to me. This would be chapter 8, learning how to trust. What I talk about in this chapter is the idea that we have a misunderstanding of what trust is and how we are meant to use it. When you hear people talking about, oh yeah, I trust in God, I trust in source, I trust in the universe, for the most part, what people are talking about is hoping and waiting for something outside of themselves to come and save them from their situation, and they will do their best to not complain too much in the process of waiting. That trust becomes just a waiting process. I will wait until source decides to save me, until the universe decides to give me what I feel like I'm lacking, until God decides to descend and, fulfill all of my desires and fix all of my problems. In the introduction to this chapter, I say to truly understand the purpose that trusting in source plays in relieving you from your state of lack of anything, lack of money, lack of health, lack of love. Something important must be clarified. You do not trust in source to save you. You trust in source to save yourself. What do I mean by that? How does that even make sense? Source cannot do more for you than it already has. God cannot give you more than he already has. This eternal being is constantly ever flowing of everything that is good, everything that is eternal, love, abundance, unity, everything that you can think of that is good and eternal is constantly flowing from source. That is the concept of its beingness itself. It can never stop. It doesn't have a beginning. It doesn't have an end. It is constant, ever flowing, and it's constantly ever flowing to you. Source cannot do any more for you. Source has done its part. It has provided. The only thing that is preventing you from receiving what has been provided is the blocks that you put up. The sense of lack that you put up, attention to the problem rather than activating the solution, attention to everything that's going wrong and everything that you want to change rather than focusing on the abundance that is ever present and ever flowing. And so this idea that you're waiting for source to give you something that you do not have is backwards in a sense. It's kind of like, you're super hungry And, God is the chef, whatever. He places the food in front of you. And, you're not looking in that direction. You're just like, oh, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I'm just going to wait and trust until Source gives me food. Like, I'm just so hungry. And Source is like, well, I've already given you the food. Like, I don't have a choice other than to give you the food because I am everything all at once. And to be outside of me is to experience the lack of me. However, within myself, all I can do and be is everything that you could ever need, want, or desire. That is part of the I am. It can be anything, become anything, transform into anything, fill anything, and it constantly is. Trust is not meant to be this passive waiting game where you're trying to prove to Source, to God, that you can wait patiently and, you'll just not complain. It's the key to unlocking yourself from this double illusion that you're within. The first illusion is that your state of lack is real, that thing actually does not exist. But we already explained that the lack of something does not prove its non-existence. It just means that you are in a state of not receiving it. Source cannot stop being and flowing. It can't, just because you're choosing to experience consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, the lack of alignment with everything that is flowing, and therefore experiencing the experience of lack in your reality, doesn't mean that everything isn't already existing. And you know how I know that that's true? Because when you pray or when you trust in Source, in God, you always know and trust that Source does have that, or else you wouldn't say that you trust in them. If you're not really sure if Source can provide this thing for you, you wouldn't pray to it. You wouldn't believe in it. You wouldn't trust in it. You don't believe in your own capacity to do that for yourself. And so you externalize that and you're like, Source, I know that you can. Please just do this for me. However, the second part of that illusion, the first being you believe in the lack itself. You believe that nothingness is what is real versus the absence of what is actually there. And the second illusion that you're under is that you are powerless to change that situation. And so when you're stuck in that second aspect where you are powerless to change your situation, one, that's when you start putting your trust in a higher power, which, great. Sometimes we need that thing that we can anchor ourselves into when we have forgotten our power. And that is where trust has its magic. It's like God, Source, the higher power was like, okay, I know you're going to forget sometimes that you are incredibly powerful and part of the I am, and you can exact change on your reality and you control your reality and are the master of your reality. And so, just in case you forget, I will be, that thing that you can trust in when you forget that you can change your situation at any point about anything. You can place your trust in me. And when you trust in me, when you place your focus on me, you will begin to believe in the reality that you are wanting to experience. You'll shift your focus to the fact that I do hold all of that within me because I am eternal abundance. You'll focus on me. And the more you focus on me, the more you focus on me, the more you focus on me, the more you will be transformed. The more your attention, awareness, and focus will be placed on the solution rather than the problem. We talked about this in the last episode. What you focus on magnifies. And that in order to receive that thing that you say that you desire, you have to move from all of the reasons that you desire something because of how awful what you're experiencing is, and move your attention to all the reasons that you want this new thing because of how wonderful it will feel to experience that. The example that we used before was wanting a new job. Recognizing that there is a difference between wanting a new job because your job is so annoying, your boss fucking sucks, the pay sucks, you hate the hours, you never get sick days, versus I want a new job because I would love to be really passionate about what I'm doing. I would love to have a little bit more extra income, like all the things that you would love to experience, rather than focusing on why you want this because of everything that sucks about what you're currently experiencing. When you're focusing on the lack of this and everything that sucks about the situation, you're continuing to feed your energy into lack, more lack, more lack. You feel further and further from what you desire. However, when you place your attention, your awareness into this thing that you desire and all the positive aspects of it, you begin to feed that. And as you feed that, as you place your attention on it, your mind becomes transformed. You are now in energetic alignment with the experience of having that because you're getting excited and you feel good. And you're like, oh my gosh, it would feel so good. I would love this. Like, it would just be so fun. And this is what I would do. And this is what I would, whatever. You're in that energy and you begin to align with that frequency. And then you are now back in alignment with everything that source has already provided. That job is already out there. That incredible partner is already out there. That abundance is already out there. That perfect living space is already out there. And even if it's not out there, the person that will create it and bring it into existence is already out there. The idea is already out there. Everything is already there. Source has already done its complete part. It's up to you to focus on that. Bring your attention and awareness into that. And when you cannot look away from your monster because you're like, fuck, how do I get out of this? I'm powerless to this. This is what's real. The lack of what is good and abundant and whatever is actually the real thing. What do? You trust in source. And source is like, yes, I don't care. Trust that I am the one that will save you. Trust in that. If that's what you need to believe to get yourself out of this muck, to align yourself with what I have already provided for you, do it. Do it. You know why? Because it's still going to work. It's still going to work. You may not realize that you are activating your own power to be in alignment to receive everything that is already there, but that's exactly what you're doing. And so trust becomes this anchor into a new reality. You can literally physically imagine yourself. I do this when I'm laying in bed. I know what my current reality is, and I place an actual anchor into the reality that I want to experience. And I see myself there. That reality is real. I see myself there, and I ground myself into that reality. And now I'm feeling everything that I would be feeling if I was actually experiencing that. I am experiencing that in my soul. I am there. I have grounded myself there. This isn't just a figment of my imagination and I'm just daydreaming. No. Energetically, I have planted and rooted myself in that reality. I'm there. Then I activate that energy, that emotion within me. And when I open my eyes, that is the energy, the frequency that is within me and that is being emitted from me. It's tuning your energy. It's a tuning fork to where you are. It says, focus on me, ground your trust in me, that this exists, that it's out there, that it's possible for you, that you will receive it. Dwell on that. Ground your energy and your anchor and your attention and focus into that reality. Feel it in your soul and bring that energy back into the present moment, knowing that because you have now anchored yourself in that reality, the only possible thing that can happen now is for you to be led in that direction, pulled in that direction. You're whatever, a kite flying in the wind and you feel like there's no solid ground. You imagine that solid ground, you ground yourself in it, and you trust that your higher self will reel you in, and you will be placed on that solid ground that you anchored yourself into mentally, vibrationally, emotionally. You do not trust in source to save you. You trust in source to save yourself. The salvation has already been provided. The saving yourself is in the receiving of the salvation, in the allowing yourself to experience the salvation that is already there. And salvation in this sense is just being saved from whatever it is that you no longer want to experience. Bashar says something along the lines of, you are so powerful that you are free to choose bondage, which means you have so much freedom and free will and power that you can literally create the experience of bondage, of lack, of suffering. You can create that experience. That's how powerful you are. Sometimes we forget that. We talked about in the last episode where we begin to identify with the problem. Our awareness is not behind the problem, understanding that you are not your problem and you have the ability and the power to change that. And that feels awful. Why? Because it's out of alignment with your truth that you are Powerful. The most powerful being in your universe. You define your external reality rather than the other way around. Your experiences don't define you. You define your experiences. Your experiences don't have power over you. You have power over your experiences. God, source, that eternal higher power cannot meet you in your state of lack. When you pray, you're like, please, please save me from this. Source can't be like, okay, let me just go down to where you are in your state of lack and, I'll help you get out of this. It can't, because your state of lack is literally defined by not being in the presence of all that is. Source cannot meet you there. You can only rise up to meet source where he already is, where they already are. You anchor yourself in that reality where you know, so even if I feel like I don't have this, even if I feel like I'm powerless to change this, I can live and exist in the reality where this is already true and real, because I know for source it always is. They already exist there and they can never leave. They are eternally abundant, present there, all powerful, all knowing. They have access to everything in this reality and provide it for you freely. Trust tunes you back into alignment with all that source is, with all that you are, because you are an extension of source. In order to change your reality, you must transcend your reality. You must be able to look at your current reality that says something totally opposite from what you want to experience and say, no, even if my experience is telling me that I lack something, anything, intelligence, ability, capacity, even if my external is saying that, I refuse to let my external reality dictate what I believe about myself. I believe that I am. I believe that I have everything that I need. I believe that I am provided for. When you transcend your external reality, then your external reality must transform to match your new beliefs, to match your new identity. And when you trust in source, you begin to believe in something and decide to say, this is more real than my current experience. I know I'm experiencing lack in this certain way, but I know, like I know that I know that I know that I know that in this reality, in the reality that source is, what I desire is there. It's there and ever flowing and ever present and available to me. You transcend your experience. You transcend and, remove that wall of that prison, that self-made prison that you had within you that was saying, I'm stuck, I'm powerless. This situation is real and more powerful than I am, and I can't get out of it. When you transcend that, you transcend out of that cage. You let those bars that are literally bars created by your own mind, that are literally not real, you transcend that. I don't know if it's elephants or something like that. I don't remember what exactly the analogy is, but it's some sort of animal that, if you cage it in the beginning, it might be an elephant. Like, even if you leave the door open, or even if you release the cage or remove the cage, it still won't leave because it still believes that the cage is there. I want to say it's elephants. I don't know where I got that from. It might be like circus animals. I'm not sure, but that's what it is. It's understanding that this sense of powerlessness is not real. And when you can't do that on your own, when you can't just remember on your own, I am the I am. I am above the situation. I am powerful. I can align with everything that would allow this to dissolve within my spirit and in my external reality. I can tune into something better and greater. When you can't do that for yourself, Source says, trust in me. Trust in me, but not to come and save you, but for you to save yourself. The salvation is already there. I've already done my part. There's literally nothing more that I can do. As source, I cannot do anything more. And honestly, even before you needed this, even before you asked, I was already providing it. It's been here. I'm eternal. I'm eternal. Always was, always will be, always am. Source has already done their part. It's up to you to see outside of the illusion that you have created for yourself. This illusion that just because you're out of alignment with source and not experiencing the eternal abundant flow of source, that that somehow that means that that source is not actually happening and that your lack of whatever is real, more real than whatever source is constantly flowing to you. When you trust, you release resistance. And all these things we've talked about, transcending your current reality, releasing limiting beliefs, reclaiming your power, remembering that you are the awareness behind the experience and that you can transcend any experience, that you define your reality rather than the other way around, that you are the master of this universe rather than a slave to whatever is happening in your external reality. All of these things are the things that we've mentioned before in terms of how you get into alignment, how you receive your manifestation, how you reclaim your power, how you get back into alignment with source, how you receive all that source is constantly forever flowing to you, because that's all that source can do. Be that constant, ever-present, abundant flow of life, joy, everything, love, abundance, all of it. When you trust, you're releasing resistance because you're saying, I don't have to figure it out. Source will figure it out. I don't need to know the how. I don't need to know the when. I don't need to know all of the things that don't have anything to do with me that my higher self can help orchestrate. I'm going to leave that to source. I'm going to trust. That is a safe place for you to place your trust. And when you trust in the benevolence of source, in the eternal quality of source, in the abundance of source, in the lovingness of source, when you trust in that, you release your resistance. You allow yourself to receive what it is that is naturally flowing to you. Sorry, I'm at the park, so you can hear literally every child ever enjoying their life, which is wonderful. It's just not what I want to hearing in my episode right now. When you release that resistance, you're clearing your energetic field. And all of these things that happen and take place when you trust in source basically just help you realign yourself with source. And it helps you get yourself out of your own problem. Trust is the ladder that you climb to get out of the hole that you dug yourself into. It's not a waiting game. It's not a passive waiting game. It's something that you literally take action on and ground yourself in order to elevate yourself to meet source where it is. Again, source cannot meet you in your state of lack. Source cannot exist in a state of lack because lack is simply the absence of being in the presence of eternal abundance, which source is. You're tuning yourself. You're grounding yourself. You're releasing resistance. You're believing in a greater power. You're believing in the fact that this reality is real, even when you can't see it in your current reality. You're seeing it with the eye of your mind, which is the first place that you have to see it if you're ever going to see it in your external reality. This is an action that you are taking, and that builds momentum. It builds that energy within you, that creative power energy within you, to now be in alignment and attracting and also being magnetized to this new reality. It's tuning your awareness, your 40 to 50 bits of, possible conscious awareness to these things that are already out there. Trust is not a waiting game. Trust is the emergency superpower. It's the emergency button for when you have totally lost the concept of who you truly are and you feel powerless. My car, love her. She's my favorite ever. Oh my God, I love everything about her. Her battery died once. It's actually died twice. But the first time I had a man and he jump started it for me. Wonderful. The second time I was single and I was like, I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I literally don't know how to do this. And I put it on my close friends and I was like, can I hire a boyfriend for the day for them to come and fix my car? And one of my friends was like, I'm in town, I'll fix it. And I was like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I would have never been able to do this on my own. I had nails at the time and I had to my handle and take off the cover. It was too much. Just a girl. Just a girl. He comes. We read the manual. My car's a hybrid, so it doesn't have an engine or something. And we were so confused. He was like, I also kind of don't know what to do. We read whatever. But we're trying to figure out where exactly is the place that we connect this thing to in order for us to jumpstart the car. And we continued reading the manual and come to find out my car has a button that says 12V bat reset, 12 voltage battery reset. I press that and my car jump starts itself. This car was made for the girlies. I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? I literally never needed to actually jump start my car. I don't need a man anymore. Just kidding. We love men around here, whatever. We don't hate anybody. We don't shit talk anybody. I'm just kidding. But I don't need a man to jumpstart my car. My car has its own button to jumpstart the power. Literally by. That is what trust is. It's that 12 voltage, 12 volt battery reset. It re-sparks your power. It reignites your power. Whether you realize it or not, that is what is happening. Isn't that so cool? My car, that's a cool function, but isn't that so cool in terms of trust? Understanding that trust is that ability to re-spark your power even without knowing you're doing it. Isn't it so cool that Source has allowed itself to be the grounding force that you can ground yourself into when you're like, I feel powerless. Let me just look to the fact that I know that you're all powerful. Isn't that literally so cool and so exciting? But it's something that you need to take action on. And please try this. Literally try this. Sometimes it's hard to really get into it. These concepts feel so like they just live in your mind. But the idea of anchoring yourself into a new reality, see that reality to exactly the way that you want it to be, exactly the way that you want it to feel. See yourself in that, live in that, anchor yourself in that. Trust that it exists because it does. Experience that and wake back up, reopen your eyes wherever you are and hold on to that sense of, I am there now. I exist in that reality now. Ground yourself in that because it's real. Everything, everywhere, all at once. There is the realm of infinite possibility. You are powerful beyond measure. Source knows it. I know it. Sometimes I also forget, but then I remember this. Your higher self knows it. You need to know it. You need to know it with every fiber in your being. You need to stop waiting passively for Source to meet you in your state of lack and rise to meet Source in its infinite state of abundance. You do not trust Source to save you. You trust in Source to save yourself. Use them. That's what they're there for. That's what the button is for. They're like, yes, ground yourself in me. You don't necessarily always believe that you are 100% a part of me and that you constantly have access to everything that I am. But for some reason, you do trust that I am always in that state of abundance. If that's what it takes for you to believe in yourself and reactivate that power, ground yourself in me. That's what I'm here for. Press the button. You got to press the button. You can't just be like, oh, please, somebody come save me. Source is like, the button is implanted in you, girl. You got to press it out. It doesn't work unless you press it. One time, my old pastor did an analogy and he was talking about the paper towel dispensers that are in the bathroom. He's like, the paper towel doesn't come out unless you wave your hand underneath it. Sometimes, for you to receive what is already there, you must take action first. And I was like, literally, period. The paper towels are already there. They're already there. It's already there. You can sit there and be like, I don't have a paper towel. I don't have a paper towel. There's a lack of paper towels. Paper towels don't exist because I don't have one in my hand right now. The paper towels are there, but you got to do something. You got to move your hand underneath it, knowing and trusting when I move my hand underneath this, the paper towels will be dispensed because there's paper towels in there and I've done my part. Girl, it's all yours. It's all yours. It's about aligning yourself to that. It's about reactivating your power. It's about remembering who you are. It's about remembering that you are the awareness that chose to experience this reality, to remember its power, that you are so powerful that you can choose to experience being powerless. And whenever you want, you can get yourself out of that. And I'm not saying that when you do that, whatever your external reality is going to magically disappear. I'm not saying that. It is possible. But our minds tend to operate more so off of linear progressions. But spontaneous miracles do happen. That's not unheard of. However, our minds tend to process things as like, well, I want this story to make sense. So things unfold a little bit more gradually for us. Depends on whatever your belief is and how strong your belief is in it. But yeah, I'm not saying that it'll magically disappear, but the way that you interact with that situation mentally, emotionally, vibrationally, spiritually will be totally different. You will no longer be viewing this external thing as something that has power over you. You will feel powerful to deal with it, to process it, to look at it in the face, to know that this may be happening right now, but I know that everything I need, want, or desire is on its way. I just kind of have to, deal with this whatever a little bit for a little bit, and it will dissolve, and everything that I desire is on its way. You trust. You trust with every fiber in your being, and you look at it head on, and you're like, I don't care. I don't care that you're still in here. I'm no longer feeding you with my attention, focus, and awareness. I am feeding and activating the solution. That is your superpower. We talked about it in the last episode, and now we're talking about how to apply it, how to make it practical in your life. And you practice that. You practice it. We're in the associative phase. You learned it mentally. Now you're going to practice it and do your best, because I know there's an aspect of your life in which you feel powerless. Everybody has it. I have it. I'm also working on it. All of these episodes are also for me, mainly for me, but we're all living the same human experience. Reclaiming your power. Remember who you are. Reclaim your power. Remember who you are. All day, every day. Reclaim your power. Remember who you are. Don't externalize your power. Remember who you are. That's it. That's the lesson. Experience life in the way that it was meant to be experienced, through a lens of, I am powerful to create my reality. And as the awareness behind it, I can have the peace of mind to experience anything that comes my way, and know and trust that everything is working out for me, and that I can get through this, and I can have my human experience without getting lost in it, without drowning in it, without having my emotions, drag me along with them because I identify with them. Use trust as an anchor and understand that it's a tuning fork for your energy. Girl, you got this. You got this. I believe in you. Your higher self believes in you. Now it's time for you to start believing in you. That's the end of this episode. I'm feeling real empowered. This is my 3rd episode today, and I was tired. I was like, I know I said I wanted to, but I'm tired. And I was like, no, I actually am so excited about this episode. I'm also really excited about this book. I reread this chapter before I started talking. I was like, hello? Do I kind of know what I'm talking about? So I'm excited for the release of this book. I don't have a date for it, but I don't know. I think about this book often, and I'm like, that it's real. I didn't write this book on my own. I was inspired. The analogies were inspired. The visuals that I received, the downloads that I got were not my own. Or maybe they were, but I was aligned to access them because I had decided I want to write a book in co-creation with Source. I want to be a channel. I want to channel a message. I want to write a book with Source. That was like my biggest thing. I was like, I want to channel Source, and didn't feel the way I thought it would feel. I thought I was just going to like type so much and then be like, oh, wow, like I woke back up and 20 pages were written. No, it was just knowingness, downloads, images. But I learned so much as I wrote it. I learned things that I did not know, yet somehow was coming out of me. Anyways, that's actually the end of the episode. I just got excited about this little book. But yeah, I love you. Thank you for tuning in. The next episode will be about the final phase, the autonomous phase. Like right now, when you tune yourself, it's you practicing the visualization that you need of trust as a tuning fork or trust as an anchor. That's just for you to practice it, for you to be able to visualize it and use it as a tool. However, there comes a point where that just becomes your way of operating, your way of believing, where you just trust. You just trust, and you trust because you trust that you trust. That's what we're going to talk about in the next episode, what that looks like, what the transition is like, how it happens, how you get there. And yeah, I will see you then. Love you. Bye.